Hi everyone, it's Kim Wilde here, and I'm celebrating my greatest hits, which has just been released, and everyone seems to love it. So we asked you if you had any questions that you wanted to ask me, and my goodness me, did you have some questions? So many questions. So we're going to go through them and see if we can get through as many as possible. So I'm just going to jump straight into it. I'm sitting here in my garden. I'm going to read your questions. Here's the first one. Right, it's from Aral Noyen. Hi Aral, lovely to speak to you. You say, hey Kim, I had a chance to see you in Turkey when I was 17. Long time ago. Now I'm 51 and You Keep Me Hanging On is still my favourite song. So my question is, how do you feel back now you look back on your successful career? Thank you. You know what? I'm really over the moon about where I am in my career right now. 40 years since Kids in America. Still loving making music. You know, we have 2 new songs on the Greatest Hits album. Just to tell everyone that it's not just all about the 80s and Kids in America and View from a Bridge in Cambodia and all that, those great songs. It's also about moving forward and writing new songs. And I've got a little feeling Ricky and I are already starting to make plans for our next album. Anyway, how do I feel when I look back? I feel proud. I feel happy that I've emerged with my sense of humour intact, and that we still bring so much joy to so many people. So, my darling, Aral, thanks for your question, and I hope that answers it a little bit. But you know I'm going to be answering lots of questions today, so maybe you'll get a bit more inside knowledge as we go through the questions. Right, here we go. So here's one from Christopher Gare. Right, he says, my best friend from Hong Kong bought us tickets for your show that's been postponed till September. Don't forget, folks, the Greatest Hits postponed till September 22. Can't wait to be there. One thing I've been wondering, since neither of us have had the privilege of seeing you live before, is if you ever add a surprise B-side to your set list. Now, that's a really good question, not least of all because on the box set there is a CD with all the B-sides on. And the reason for that is because there were some just great B-sides. B-sides, of course, were always trying to be A-sides, and some of them really nearly made it. Ones that I particularly love are Loving You. I think that's a rather gorgeous little sexy number. What else do I love? Staying With My Baby. That's a really beautiful song. I'd love to sing that live one day, and I might have a chat with Ricky Wilde, and maybe we'll slide it in a little section of it on the Greatest Hits tour next year. So we're going to be adding lots and lots of songs into the tour next year as segues. So we might not do the entire song, but we certainly will do the best bits of the songs that you love. Okay, so we have a question from Michael Dimmock. He's sending love from Melbourne. Michael, Melbourne in Australia. Love Australia. I've missed it so much. Love touring Australia. Love being there. Have many wonderful, happy memories of being in Australia. So I'm sending all my love to you now. Big hug from me here. Can't wait to see you again, Australia. Right, so Michael, your question is, who were the singers and bands that you loved when you were growing up? Okay, so where do you start? I mean, really, I was very lucky because I grew up in a household where music was right at the heart of everything. And my mum and dad had a great record collection, and we would listen to, obviously, everything that the Beatles put out, plus all their solo albums, which were just amazing. Simon and Garfunkel, Aretha Franklin, Carole King, Joni Mitchell, Elvis Presley, of course, lots of him. Frank Sinatra, I absolutely loved, and Julie London, loved that sort of scene. Loved pop music. You know, I grew up in the 70s, glam rock, Bowie, Brian Ferry, Sweet, Mud. I mean, just all of them. I loved those bands. Loved glam rock. Mark Bolan, T-Rex. Yeah, so I grew up with a very eclectic appreciation of music and a very broad understanding of what I would term as pop music, even including Tchaikovsky, which my dad used to play us a lot. beautiful, by the way, if you've never sat down and listened to him. Yeah, the Beach Boys, Pet Sounds was a very influential album for us. Of course, ABBA, you know, I remember watching them when the Eurovision Song Contest, wasn't it? And they had a massive impact on us. And then punk, of course, came along. The Clash and Blondie and the Sex Pistols and the Buzzcocks and everyone involved in that amazing time of music. So yeah, a bit of punk, a bit of rock and roll, and a bit of pop, a lot of pop, which is why I've called my album Pop Don't Stop. Okay, hi, it's Kim Wilde, still here, wading through all these fantastic questions that you sent me. Some really, really good ones. Can't do them all, obs, but I'm going to have a good old go. So here we got one from, ooh, now how do you pronounce that? Schwulka Engelman? Is that right? Schwulka Engelman? And you're from the Netherlands. Hi, my darling. Love you, Dutchies. Don't you know it? And here's a lovely question from you, Schwulka. And you say, hi, Kim. Almost everything has been asked about your amazing music and career. So I'm going to ask you, which sci-fi movie do you still think is the best? And I know you like it. Of course, Close Encounters always has me. Absolutely. Just love that movie. In recent years, Arrival, which is a beautiful movie, and I've talked a little bit about it. It's a very emotional movie as well as a sci-fi movie about aliens that come round the planet in pods and get us lot at it. And let's hope they do that one day, because I think it's going to take something like that for us all to wake up and look at what the terrible damage we're doing to our beautiful jewel of a planet. So I think it might take those aliens to wake us up, because nothing else seems to, does it? Okay, so Arrival, I would say, is my favourite sci-fi movie, and I'd suggest you go out and watch it. Okay, love reading these questions. Here's one from Daniel Sieber. Hi, Daniel. And you say, how do you usually put a set list together, and when are you planning a tour, and have you plans for another studio albums? Yes, the set list, I think the most ambitious and exciting set list that we've ever put together is for the Greatest Hits tour next year. We wanted to cram in as many goodies as possible and some rare grooves, so we've decided to do it in a sort of Segway situation, as well as some big old bangers like Kids in America and Checkered Love and You Keep Me Hanging On, all this stuff. You know, we're not going to miss a trick. So we're spending a lot of time, Ricky and I, and we've been writing out lists of songs that we would love to include, working out the different styles of them as well. You know, so we got some more rock poppy ones, we've got more sort of R&B dancey ones, and so I think that's what we'll end up doing, having sort of little segments and stylistically throughout the Greatest Hits set. So I can't wait for that. Right, next part of it is, I know it's two questions in one, but here we go. So you're asking about another studio album. Okay, so that leads quite nicely onto a next studio album, because of course there are two new songs on the Greatest Hits album, Pop Don't Stop, and we're raring to go, and that's why we put them on there. So yeah, Ricky Wilde and I are going to be sitting down very soon after we've gone through the set list for the Greatest Hits and talk about the new album, which is already a little seedling deep down in our souls. So you can be absolutely sure that a new album by Kim Wilde is very much in the pipeline. Okay, hi, Kim here, still reading out all your fab questions. Thanks so much for sending them in. Wonderful to get a little insight into what you're interested in. Here's someone called Erdia. Hi, Erdia. You say, would you ever consider doing a jazzy-like album? It would suit your voice, and I really think it would sound great. Yeah, you're right. I mean, you mentioned here Love Blonde and Jessica as two songs that have a bit of a jazzy flavour to them. And of course, quite a few of the songs on my Christmas album, Wild Winter Songbook, are very jazzy influenced also. And as I grew up, I used to love Julie London I loved her brand of jazz, and I would love to do a jazzy kind of album at some point in my career. It would be something, yeah, it's something I'm really looking forward to doing, actually. I have mentioned it a few times, but I don't think it's going to be any time soon. So I'm hoping that I might have 20 years left in my amazing career. My dad's 80 and he's still rocking and put out an album last year. So I'm 60 now. So that means, yeah, I've got 20 more years to kind of get my act together. So I hope you're ready for a long wait. Hey, Lionel Mazia, here's your question. Thanks so much for sending it. You just wanted to tell me how much, you just wanted to tell me how much you admire me. I meant to skip that bit. That's a question. Thank you, bless you, darling. Now and Forever, you say it didn't make it big time when it was released, and it's such a brilliant album full of great songs. And you absolutely love Now and Forever. Well, yeah, so do I. I have to say that Now and Forever is one of my personal favourite albums. R&B influence and dance influence, obviously. Yes, it didn't do so well in the charts, but, you know, people are looking back at that album now, like yourself, and saying how much they loved it. So yeah, I think in my top 3 albums that I've recorded, Now and Forever would certainly be in that top 3. So thanks for bringing that up. I think there's going to be a lot of people out there who would agree with you. Okay. Right, Kim here, going through your questions that you sent in. Thank you for sending all these questions in. Really interesting to read what you're interested in. Now, Stagna T, how you doing? And you say, my favourite songs of you are Million Miles Away. So many people say that to me. And European Soul. I love that one too. Can you remember the best memories you had while making them with your brother, and where the general ideas came from? Yeah, Million Miles Away is a song that so many people mention. We are really looking forward to introducing that into the Greatest Hits tour next year. Not quite sure how we're going to do it, where we're going to do it, but we are going to do it. It's a beautiful melody, and I think it has a really gorgeous video, very filmic, black and white. It's very lovely. So I agree with you. Million Miles Away, all the way. And European Soul. Well, now European Soul was a song that was inspired by one of my favourite painters, Chagall. Probably lots of you already know that. And when I have a chance, when I'm travelling, I always go and look at Chagall's paintings or his stained glass, if I happen to be near a church where he's put stained glass. Yeah, European Soul. I do remember actually finishing the lyrics for that song while I was recuperating at my parents' house, because I'd been to a party and I'd had quite a lot of, I think it's some kind of whiskey, brandy, and I fell over backwards and I broke my collarbone. Shocking. It's not funny. It wasn't clever. Could have killed myself, but I didn't. I survived, and I lay in bed and I wrote those lyrics. So there you go. European Soul, written while I was in recovery from nearly killing myself. Right, still reading through these fab questions. Really enjoying this. Okay, John Stace. Hi, John. How you doing? And you say, my lovely Kim, bless you. Greetings and hugs from beautiful Greece. My love to beautiful Greece too. I love Greece. I would like to ask you from all your career until now, which video that you most enjoyed making, which is your favourite by far? Crikey. Well, if you're not sure and want to make up your own mind, they're all on here. I've never had all my videos put together before in my career, and they are all in this fantastic box set that Cherry Red have put together. I haven't had a chance to sit down and watch them all myself yet, but I do remember making the You Came video, and that was near the Reichstag back in 1988 on the Bad Tour with Michael Jackson. And yeah, we made the video while I was performing there that day and backstage. Wonderful memories of being on that tour. Of course, the wall came down the year after, so we were all singing very, very loud to try and get the show across that dreadful wall. And so yeah, I think you came, the video, wonderful memories of being, I guess, yeah, 28 and running around beautiful Berlin and being on that amazing tour at that very special time in my career when Close came out and all those great singles, Never Trust a Stranger, Four Letter Word, and all of them. So I think that answers that question. Thank you. Okay, so here is a question from Phil White. How you doing, Phil? Here you go. You say, "Hey Kim, I came from Orlando in Florida all the way to see you at Coco in London, and it was the best live show I've seen." Crikey. Hey Phil, that is one of my all-time favourite concerts that I ever did. To think that at this stage in my career, you know, 40 years after Kids in America, we were there on that stage with a new album, Here Come the Aliens, and singing our greatest hits and new tracks too. And that crowd at Coco were just something else. And you know what was really wonderful? My dad was in the audience that night, which you may remember me dedicating a song to him, Four Letter Word, I think it was. And it was wonderful that he got to see that very special night. So thanks for reminding me about that, Phil. Your question is that are there any album tracks that weren't released as singles but which you consider are real hidden gems? I mean, there are many actually, but one song that really stuck out that I was listening to lately when I was skipping through my box set is Hypnotize, which is on Now and Forever. It's utterly beautiful. I think it actually is more beautiful than Four Letter Word, and Four Letter Word is a pretty beautiful song. So it's in the same sort of place as Four Letter Word, but I actually prefer it as a song, Hypnotize. So check it out. That's on Now and Forever, beautifully produced by Ricky Wilde, and a song that I might try and sneak into, well, the tour after the Greatest Hits tour. So we're going to do an Antitour at some point, and I think I'm going to sneak Hypnotize in. So here we go. We've got a nice little question here from Dave Garrett, which I thought I'd answer because I'm sitting here in my garden and it seemed churlish not to. Okay, here. Are you still into gardening, Kim? Am I still into gardening? You've got to be kidding. I love gardening. I worship gardening. It's a huge part of my life. I love gardening every bit as much as I love pop music. So that's a big statement right there for you. During the lockdown, when we lost a lot of the work that we were really looking forward to, the wonderful concerts that were postponed, I just took myself off into the garden every single day. I was either out here for 5 minutes or 5 hours, and sometimes more. And my garden's never looked quite so wonderful as a result. It keeps me fit. It's very therapeutic. It's great for the head. So being outside, very connected to nature, so inspiring. The things you see out here. Had a close encounter with an owl just a few weeks ago. Just spending time out here. Amazing miracles happen every single day. So yes, long answer, little question. Are you still into gardening? Oh yeah. Okay, so here's a question from Mark Free. Hi Mark. And you say, "Hi Kim, a quick hello. I drove you a few years back to all the Wyvale meetings and a few gigs. Stay safe, Mark." Hi Mark, thanks for doing all that driving for me. Yeah, I mean, do you know what? I've got to tell you the story about Wyvale Garden Centre. You're probably all wondering what that is, but anyway, it's a chain of garden centres that I ended up doing a bit of work with back in the day. And you know what? I was up in Birmingham, and all of a sudden, everyone went really quiet in the garden centre and I couldn't work out what was going on. And guess who'd come to see me? The one and only legendary Roy Wood. Yeah, and he had his pink specs on and everything. He just was the living legend himself. Saw my name outside the Wyvale Garden Centre and decided he'd just drop in and say hi. And I've got a picture of us together somewhere. So, yeah, that's a really sweet story. I just thought I'd share with you. So hi Kim, I've noticed on the Stockcake and Waterman chat groups over the years that your name comes up as an artist that you would have liked to have done a collaboration with them. You know, we nearly did a collaboration with Stockcake and Waterman, and gosh, they made some amazing pop records at that time. We were making the Close album, and You Came at the time, and I remember them saying that they felt that You Came could have been a song that they would have got involved in, and they would have loved to have done that. And of course, while all of that was going on, I was just loving what they were doing. I've just written down a little list of the Stockcake and Waterman songs that I love the most. There are many. Dead or Alive from 1984. Of course, we covered that live. You Spin Me Round. What a great pop record. I mean, it's up there in the top 10, isn't it, of all-time greatest pop records. Love that song. Mel and Kim, of course, beautiful Mel and Kim. So many great songs they did, Showing Out, Get Fresh at the Weekend. Just love that song. So feel good and still sounds just as fresh as it did then. Of course, all that fantastic stuff that they did with Rick Astley, you know, Never Gonna Give You Up. Just brilliant. I mean, and discovering him making tea in the studio and him walking on stage now with a cup of tea. He's so funny. And of course, I've recorded with him several times, not least of all on my Christmas album. What a gorgeous man he is. Love, love, love Rick Astley. And of course, all the brilliant stuff with Kylie. Wow. Where do you begin? Where do you end? Let me just try and pick my favourite one, which I think is Je ne sais pas pourquoi. What a sweet, lovely song that is. My all-time favourite Kylie song. Hi everyone, loving reading through these questions. Thanks so much for sending them and celebrating Pop Don't Stop, the greatest hits coming out this year. 40 years of my career. Can barely believe it. Still itching to get out there and sing our greatest hits for you next year in 2022. Right, so here we go. Here's a question from Dan Ribera. Hi, Dan. He says, are there any songs you wish you could have written? Oh, my goodness me. I mean, I could be here for the rest of the session just going through all the songs I wish I could have written. I've just quickly written down a few. So where should we start? Well, why don't we start with Bowie and fashion? Just love David Bowie. Remember listening to Hunky Dory, Hunky Dory back in the day. My dad had gone out and bought Hunky Dory, and I was only sort of just an early teenager listening to that song, and have loved Bowie ever since, of course. What about the Beach Boys and Wouldn't It Be Nice? I remember listening to Pet Sounds, another one of my dad's albums back in the day. You know, we were so lucky. We had so many great albums that we were allowed to play on vinyl, of course, on the record player in our living room. Just a few short years before we started making our own records. And Kate Bush, of course, a brilliant Kate Bush, Running Up That Hill. What a wonderful production and what a wonderful song. I love Kate Bush, such an inspiration. Blondie, of course, love Blondie. And Heart of Glass was one of my all-time favourite pop records. Production-wise, song-wise, delivery, just everything about Blondie is still really amazing, isn't it? That they're still going so strong. Love them. And Pretenders, you know, two artists there, Blondie and the Pretenders. They were two bands that I loved the most while I was at art college, just before I started making records. I love Chrissie Hynde, love Debbie Harry particularly, love their unique sort of approach to styling, singing, making records. They were so, so iconic, still so iconic. So yeah, Blondie and the Pretenders, Brass in Pocket, what a great song from the Pretenders. The list goes on, folks. Great question. Hey, here's a question from Katinka Tinkini. Hello, darling. How are you? So here's your question. A very important question, you say. And it is, will you ever do an Antitour or a tour DVD? Great question. We are, of course, doing the greatest hits next year, and we have already talked about how fab it would be to do an Antitour and introduce some really rare grooves. We are going to do some quite rare tracks on the Greatest Hits 2 next year. So we'll have a little look at and see what's left, you know, some rare B-sides, some rare tracks from albums that are slightly less well known than the biggest ones. So yeah, I'm very excited about that. And I think on the tour, the Greatest Hits next tour, Rick and I'll have plenty of time to knock our heads together, come up with a definitive list, strike it off and just see which ones are left standing. So yeah, an Antitour definitely in the pipeline for the next few years, and a tour DVD. Looks like that could be a really good idea. Maybe we could organise something with the Greatest Hits tour. That would make a lot of sense, wouldn't it? I think there's lots of people out there would love Greatest Hits tour DVD, so I'm on it. Right, we have a question from Heathen Dance. Hi there, Heathen. And you say, hi Kim, I believe you're the composer of the song Shangri-La and that you also wrote the lyrics to it. And this is one of my favourite songs of all time. And the lyrics are pure dark gold. Gosh, they really are, aren't they? Did you ever consider writing a poem book? You know, that's an interesting thing because I used to write lots of poetry before I became a songwriter, and I love poetry. Would I consider writing a poetry book? I'm not sure because most of my poems find their way into songs, and that's where I'm happiest to express them, really. But something to think about there, Heathen, and I'm really glad you love that song. And yes, it is dark gold, isn't it? Bit of a knife twisting in there. Can't tell you too much more. Glad you liked it though. Hi there, Colin Stock. It's a question from you, and you say, Shine On is absolutely brilliant. Thank you so much. Do you have any plans to work with Boy George again? Your voices blend so well. You know what, Colin? So many people have said that, and I absolutely love George's vocal performance on Shine On. And yeah, our voices do sound really great together. And it's really strange because you can't always tell whether two voices are going to work together or not until you actually give it a try, and our voices are so different, and maybe that's how it works. You know, the contrast is beautifully there. So yeah, working with George was a real honour, an honour to work with an icon who I first saw on Top of the Pops when I was performing Cambodia, singing that song and looking down into the audience, and he was part of the audience. So it was before he became famous. He'd got tickets to go with his friends to dance in the crowd, and I noticed him, and you couldn't not notice him. So eye-catching and beautiful. So to be working with him all these years later is just amazing. So chuffed he's on the Greatest Hits record, and yes, I would love to work with George again anytime. Hi everyone, loving going through these questions, some fab ones, I've got to say. Here's one from Jennifer Waninga, I think it is. Hi Jennifer. And you say, how do you see your future in the music industry? Do you want to continue as long as your father? I hope so. And what is your absolute favourite song to sing? Lots of questions there. Jennifer, let's start with, how do I see my future in the music industry? Well, like you say, I mean, my father's now 82 and he put out an album during 2020, that incredibly difficult year, but it didn't stop my dad putting out an album, and he's still going strong. I think he's done more gigs this year than me already, all 82 years of him, and he drives himself to the gig and back. What a guy. So yeah, I'm now 60, and I still have so much energy and passion for pop music and for singing and for performing that I just can't see myself going anywhere very soon. And when I look at my dad who's 80 and I think of myself as 60 and there's like 20 years to fill of music, it could happen, couldn't it? I could just be making music all those 20 years. And I would love that. I would love that. So, yeah, that's how it's going at the moment. Already in plans, talking, making plans for a new album. Really looking forward to the Greatest Hits touring next year. A lot of touring next year because, of course, we lost out. A lot of concerts were postponed because of the pandemic. They're all on for next year with any luck, and yeah, I should think the inspiration of all the crowds and all the people who are going to come and see us will get us making a new album and just carrying on. So yeah, there's lots more to come from Wilde Camp. What's my favourite song to sing live? That's a really tricky question. I do get asked it a lot. I have to say that having had a long break from Kids in America, initially when I moved out of the music industry in the 90s and got married and had kids, when I came back and found the audience was still there, couldn't wait to hear Kids in America again. That really was like re-gifting that song back to me. Everyone out there, all of you who come and go crazy every time you hear that song. And each time you do that, you bring that song back to me, even after all these years. So I can't wait to sing Kids in America again all next year on the Greatest Hits tour and for the rest of my life. It's one of the best pop records ever made. I'm really aware of that. A total respect to Ricky Wilde and Marty Wilde for writing it. And yeah, and I just thank the Lord above that I was gifted with such a fantastic record. Hey there, Ace. I think A-I-Z-E. Thank you for your question. And you say, you once saw a UFO. And if it landed, would you get in? Now, that's a really good question. And I have thought about it quite a lot. Would I get in? Definitely. Because I'd want to have a look around. And of course, back in 2009, I think it was 2009, I was in this very garden where I'm sat here now. So this is my garden. And I was out here. It was actually the day before Michael Jackson sadly passed away. I remember it well. And yeah, and we saw a light in the sky, and it was silent and huge and moved erratically for quite several moments, and actually made it into the local press. And yes, it had a massive impact on me. I was with a couple of people here were with me. I was with my husband and my friend Ed. So we had witnesses. It wasn't just me on the Chardonnay. And yeah, I mean, I absolutely, truly believe in this massive universe with all its infinite mystery, that of course there is more life out there. And it's only a matter of time before that is confirmed, I believe. Before I shuffle off this mortal coil, I'm pretty sure we're going to have some pretty positive proof of that. But yeah, so it happened in the back garden. I know it sounds a bit far-fetched and everyone thinks I was a bit loopy crazy. It did inspire me writing a lot of the tracks for the Here Come the Aliens album back in 2018. And I read tons and tons of books on the subject, so you've really got me on a favourite subject there. Well done, Ace. I hope that answers a part of your question. Okay, here is a question from Gary Smith. Hi, Gary. You say, I just want to know if you're a Cilla Black fan, and if so, have you ever sung one of her songs? And I know your dad is a singer too, and did he sing with Cilla? You know, he may have done on one of those TV shows back in the day, because Cilla was knocking around the same time my dad was doing lots of stuff back in the mid-60s. I remember being an 8-year-old in 1968, hearing Anyone Who Had a Heart by Cilla Black, and it made a huge impact on me. I've always loved Cilla's voice, especially that song, and I did a cover version of it on my covers album Snapshots. A very emotional sing for me that day. I couldn't believe that I was in a studio recreating that song in my own style with Ricky Wilde. So yeah, Anyone Who Had a Heart on Snapshots, check it out if you haven't heard it. I particularly love doing all the backing vocals. There were some pretty astonishing ones on the original song, and I had a real go at replicating those too. So yes, thanks for asking me a question about the amazing Cilla Black. Hi everyone, I've really loved looking through these questions that you've all sent in. Thanks so much. Celebrating, of course, the Greatest Hits album, which had just come out. I'm so over the moon about it. Cherry Red have done me proud. they've done some amazing packaging, and they have put the songs beautifully together, not least of all the way they have collated this fabulous thing with DVDs and B-sides and A-sides and 12-inch extended remix stuff and everything, and a booklet. So I'm over the moon, and hope you are too. What a wonderful way to celebrate being 60 this year and march on to the next decade of my career. Right, so many of you have asked this question, so I'm going to answer this for all of you. And you have asked me about the lost album of 98, which we recorded during and just after I got married, and when I decided to take a step out of the music industry. Yes, it does still exist, and there are many great songs on it. And will it see the light of day? Well, the album was called The Promise, and there was a beautiful song on it called The Promise, as well as several other songs. I'm hoping that one day it will see the light of day. You know what? There were many fantastic songs also written around the time we wrote the Close album as well. Lots of songs that I wrote with Tony Swain, who also co-produced the Close album with Ricky and myself. So we are thinking of grabbing all those lost gems and putting them together on some kind of format in the future. So lots to look forward to. The Greatest Hits next year, a new album, an Antitour, maybe sort of some lost gems, put those together on another album. So plenty to keep us busy over the next few years. And I hope you join me and keep me company on the journey for the rest of it, wherever it takes us together. So sending you lots of love, everyone. Bless you, and thanks for asking all these great questions. Thanks for all the support of my career. I promise you we're not going to let you down. We're just full of it, and we can't wait to get back out on the road and say hi to you. So sending lots of love from me, from Ricky Wilde and the Wilde team. Mwah.